Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. I am Kim Langling, your host, and I am so happy that you're deciding to spend just a small part of your day with myself today and my special guest, Tong Ge. Now, she lives in Canada, and she moved to Canada in the late 80s as an international student. And in 2012, since 2012, she's published poems, prose, and short stories in English and Chinese across North America, England, and Taiwan. Now, she's already received numerous literary prizes and has been a finalist in other contests as well for her writing. And her debut novel, The House Filler, was published in Canada in 2023. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Tong. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Kim. I'm glad to be here. Really
And I
appreciate
got your name right, didn't I?
it. I did, yeah. That's why I had a sum up.
I'm so excited to have you on because first off, I want to talk about when in the 80s when you were an international student. Now, how did you end up in Canada?
I applied for graduate study in North America, and because I we didn't have the money, like in the 80s. First of all, we didn't have the money. Second, the China's foreign currency policy is that the maximum amount of US dollar you can exchange is 40. So when we only have $40 to come out.
Oh,
Yeah. So I had to apply for scholarship, and among four graduate schools that accepted me, two of them provided the scholarship. And I chose Canada because the Canada-wise University of Saskatchewan, they're one semester earlier. Admission is one semester earlier than the US one. So that's why I came to Canada because like in China, policy could change at any time. When the policy allow you to leave, you have to grab it. You don't know if you wait, what's going to happen. That's how I ended up in Canada.
no, I find that stuff, I find learning about this fascinating because as an American, I wouldn't know anything that you just talked about.
Yeah,
The understanding, just the finance part,
yeah,
just that part alone, that you're limited to a certain, what, 40 US dollars?
$40. I borrowed another 300 US dollars. So I had 340 US dollars with two luggages. That's how I came to Canada. That's all
Wow.
I had. Yeah,
Now, the name of my show is Let Fear Bounce. So I
right.
have a question. When you were doing that, I mean, that's a big move. That's a big move because you're going from one culture to another
Yeah,
and you have very limited resources with you.
yeah.
What was your mindset? Were you just like, I'm going to do this, I'm bound and determined? Or did you have any little bit of fear hanging out in there?
Well, the fear was that if I could be stopped at the in the airport by my employer. This is a long story. It's in my third book because
Okay.
to cut the long story short, um, everything I did was legal. I, accepted, and China's policy allow us to come out as international students. I got a scholarship. I didn't need government money, but the university I worked at before I came out, the president of the university, his son pursued me, and I turned down his proposal. Then the father did did everything to trap me, to stop me from going out. It's like a revenge. So when I left our house, my parents didn't even come out to say goodbye because Chinese culture usually they accompany you to the train station, and they did it because they're afraid the neighbor would find out, because that was like during the summer holiday. But they were afraid the neighbor would find out, then report it to the president. Then, well, he did numerous times to try to stop me, and
Goodness.
it was like a spy, like a thriller or something. Like, how did I sneak through his airing cloud every time?
So is
But
that is if you turn down or refuse a proposal to someone, is that considered like a really big slight to them in your
because
culture?
yes, and because of his the father's status, right? He was president of the university. My father worked there. I worked there. We all live on the campus. All the faculties or families live in the campus. And also because in Chinese culture, it's not like the son proposed, it's a family, it's a father proposed to the, like one parent proposed to another parent.
Oh.
Yeah, so and they
Oh, so it was like you were saying no to the whole family.
exactly, and also the culture was they got middle person to come to our house to propose. So now everybody knew. Like once the news is out, everybody knew, right? And the Chinese culture, this part I don't like is that when actually I only went out with the son like 3 times. Actually 2 times. The first time was we met in another middle person's house, and I didn't even know who I was meeting. I didn't know he was the son of the president. And so after two interaction or meeting, I decided he was not for me. But I think he didn't get it. So the father got a middleman come to our house to propose formally because he considered like because the condition was that not condition, the benefit was if I agree to marry the son, I will get the government money to come to Canada. Like I would be sponsored by Chinese government. I didn't have to have a scholarship. I didn't have to have all that risk and the fear and uncertainty and all that. And the word he used was the green lights all the way to Canada. So
Oh, now
he
would
was
they have actually even let you go?
if I marry his son, yeah, both of us will be in Canada or somewhere
Oh,
with
okay.
Chinese government money. But when I refused, then the father started to revenge on me.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
so like up until the time I was in an international airport in Beijing, it was like I hope nobody is like stop me at the airport because that happened to
Oh,
some other Chinese students, right? They were stopped in their work unit, we call work unit. Our employers we call work unit would send people like HR people or security guards get to the airport and stop them from leaving, even though everything was legal. And
I have a that's awful.
also in China at the time, the policy was if I quit my job, within next 5 years, I am not allowed to leave the country. I couldn't even quit. If I quit, like for 5 years, I wouldn't have a job and I couldn't leave the country. So
This is fascinating to learn this stuff. I mean, that would be scary. You would
yeah,
you would be so nervous the whole time. So you finally got on the airplane and it took off in the air. Did you just go, ah, okay.
that's right. But I paid a heavy price for my freedom because I that was the last time I saw my father. Yeah.
So
It's
you never went back.
I did that after I become an immigrant. I have my immigrant status. But before I got that, my father passed away.
Oh,
Yeah. The last time I saw my father was even though when I leave our hometown, like my home, my parents didn't come out, but I need to change train in another city. It's Xi'an. It's about 2 hours from my hometown. My hometown was a university town, so then my sister worked in Xi'an and lived in Xi'an. So I went to Xi'an first and spent a few days at her place. And then my father came to Xi'an to see me off. So last time I saw him was in a train station. It was summer, so hot. He was in his early 70s. And I was in the train. He was outside standing there. And that was the last time we said goodbye.
oh,
And I never knew that was the last time until
yeah.
too late.
Ugh.
It's a long story because
And you
I
said
quite
you said that you have this all in a book.
my third book.
Your third book. Okay. Okay. Well then,
Yeah,
folks, that's something we're gonna have to look forward to as her third book because that's a story I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, what I'm like, we have to move on. This
yeah,
is
that's
fascinating.
right. Yeah.
It's very fast. I love learning about different cultures and stuff because it's so different
Yeah.
from how I grew up in America.
Yeah.
And I often think that we do, as Americans,
Yeah.
in general,
Yeah.
myself included, take a lot for granted, a
Yeah.
lot of our freedoms for granted.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency to and I understand that we're human. We're in our own bubbles. We have our own lives. We're all very busy. If you're married, you got kids, you're taking care of your family or your parents, working full time, whatever the case may be. We're all very busy. So you're not thinking of other folks
That's right.
elsewhere and what they might be going through. Unless, of course, you have some sort of personal connection.
Yeah.
So that's why I like talking to folks like you and learning about other cultures and stuff because I want to be aware of what's going on because this is a big old world and my little slice of it isn't the whole world,
Yeah. When
you
I
know?
was in a critique group, I present my writing, and one member, he couldn't understand why the president did that.
Mm.
He said, "Wow, big deal, right? You turn him down, big deal." I'm saying, "No, it was a big deal. It was a really
Yeah,
big
that's
deal."
what's I mean the culture is just so different.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I've traveled to Europe numerous times and been to several different countries over there. And each time I tried at least to learn very basic sentences of that
Yeah.
language because I had to remind myself I am the visitor here.
Yeah.
This is their culture. I might not agree with it. I might not understand it. Or I sit there, here's something that I learned
Yeah.
from someone. It was actually my ex-husband. I married someone from Germany. And I kept saying, I don't understand. That's weird. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that's wrong. And he's like, no, it's not weird. It's not strange. It's not wrong. It's just different from what you know. I don't understand either. I can't wrap my brain around why this young man who you said no, but you didn't even say no to him. You said no to a liaison that they sent.
My parents said no to the liaison,
Yeah,
basically.
and it's fair. See, to me, that's just my brain just went, what? Because it seems so impersonal,
Yeah.
and it seems more like a transaction than a love match,
Yeah.
you know? So very interesting stuff. Now I'm gonna have to get your third book.
Exactly. Yeah. Second book first, and then third book.
Oh, okay. So it goes in order. All right. So we're gonna have to get into that. So your first book, let's get into the book, shall we?
That's right. Yes.
So your first book, The House Filler. I find that title interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to know what the book's about, give a little summary, but then I want to know how it is that you came up with that title, The House Filler.
Yes. The book is a historical fiction about China from 1920 to 1966. The
Oh,
It is based on my grandmother's story. And in Chinese culture, in the old time, they called a woman who marries a widower a house filler. So
oh.
the protagonist married a widower because this is something.
So
Yeah,
she's filling the empty spot.
exactly.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
Yeah. And also, that was a time a woman's beauty was not measured by the looks, but by the size of her feet. The tinier the feet, the more desirable.
I often wondered if that was true.
That was
So
true.
did women actually used to bind their feet to try and keep them small?
Usually, their parents would band their daughter's feet at a very young age, usually started from 4 or 5. Golden feet,
Oh,
because she was a motherless child, and her father delayed her foot bending process until she was 6. So it was a bit too late. So she didn't achieve the ideal size of 3 寸. In Chinese term, it's called the golden water lily feet. 3 Chinese twin is about 4 inches long.
oh,
But her feet was 1 inch too long. So then she had a hard time to find a husband.
yeah. And I'm looking at my hand because for whatever reason, I know how this is 6 inches.
Yeah,
And you just said the typical size, ideal
about
size foot
about 4 inches. Yeah,
would be from like
yeah,
this.
yeah. If you Google
That's like
online,
that's a toddler size foot.
if you Google online, you see lots of like a bunch of pictures of the bound feet. But it's a warning because some people they don't have like for the barefoot, you can see how it was um uh how do you say that
Mangled.
mangled.
That so.
That culture lasted for about 1,000 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's first
Wow.
started with the emperor who liked tiny feet women. So he would favor the this particular woman who, her one of his concubines have this tiny feet. And then the women in the court, they start to do that, try to mimic her. But by like a Song dynasty, it spread to the ordinary people. So if a family want to marry their daughters well into a good family, that's expected. If their daughter's feet is too large, well, they may end up with a laborer or like a coolie or a peasant. So if they want to marry well, yeah, they have to.
And I will never understand that.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
what does feet have to do with the person? I so
So then it developed that the Chinese man had this foot fetish.
because of
So
one man.
it comes from one emperor, like 1,000 years ago. I know.
Isn't that it's just amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. Yeah, how people
There's
like,
so much I could say, but this is a family show, so I'm not.
but also, in the name of it is for your own good. That's the parents would say to their daughters, "It is for your own good." So how many
And
times?
that was the generation. That's all they knew. That's what they
Yeah,
understood. We have the same, not the same type of stuff, but certain things through the generations in America as well. You
yeah,
know, this is how we do it, or it's for your own good.
your own
And
good.
then
Yeah,
you look back and you're like, that was so wrong.
yeah, that's right.
That was so wrong.
Yeah,
And I'm sure each generation has that
yeah,
to some degree. Fascinating. So the house filler, that means a woman who has married a widow. They're
yeah.
filling the empty spot.
Yeah, eventually she married when she was 26, which was way too old at the time. And the only candidates she could find, or her father could find for her, was a widower. Her husband was 20 years older than her. So that's how and another reason that she delayed, her marriage was delayed because she was trained as a seamstress. And later she became a breadwinner for the family. So her father had to, kept her in the house for too long because he need to rely on her for income.
Oh. So your grandma really did not have an easy life.
No, not at all. And the book, like 90% of the book is true. Like 90% are true stuff. I only fictionalized some details and I did some we call characters consolidation, you know
Mhm.
that, right? And some big historical events. I did research, make sure I got it right. Um, but 90% of this material is based on real life events
From your own family members.
from my own family.
Wow. That'll be a very interesting read. That'll be a very interesting read. So you have book two then, you said. So what is that?
The book two is based on my parents' story, mainly my mother's.
And is
Uh,
that book published?
no,
Oh
it's
no, it's not published yet. Okay.
no,
So
no, no, not published yet.
do you have a working title for it or you can't share that yet?
I can't. Yeah, it's pretty much decided. It's called The Pinioned Bird.
Interesting. I love your book titles. Well,
Well,
they catch your attention.
yeah.
At least
Well,
for me, because I don't know what it is. And now, so I would literally be like, oh, I'm going to Google that on my phone and see what that means.
yeah.
You know,
But
that's how my brain goes. If I see something that catches my eye, I'm going to Google. I'm like, oh, let me look at the back of the book and see what it's all about. So
yeah,
when do you think that might be out, or do you have a time frame?
I don't have a time yet because I'm still rewriting the opening chapters.
Oh, okay. So it's
Yeah,
a work in progress.
yeah. It's finished, but I just realized that recently I need to rewrite opening chapters. But this version is way like so much better.
So do you think it'll be out this year in 2025 or maybe early 2026?
I don't think it'll be out this year.
It's a lot of work writing a book,
Yeah.
especially a fiction book.
Yeah, I just want to add something. For the title, The House Filler, that is my own translation from a Chinese term. Because when I translated, when I was doing the research, there's no official translation for that term.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I was gonna ask, is that like the literal translation?
It's literary translation from a Chinese term.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting. So what is it in Chinese? Not that I'll understand it. I just want to hear you say it.
it's called the tianfang. Tianfang.
Tianfang.
Tianfang. Yeah. Tian means field, fang means house.
Tian.
Tianfang. Yeah.
Tianfang.
Yeah.
Well, look at me.
Yeah.
Look at me talking Chinese.
Oh, you
Tianfang.
got it.
Tianfang.
Yeah.
I find stuff like this so fascinating, though. I love learning new things,
Yeah.
So I've learned all kinds of stuff from you in just 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're working on book two, and you had mentioned a book three. Are you working on two different books at the same time?
Oh, the book 3 is done. It's finished.
Oh, you're jumping around.
Oh, actually, what happened was I first wrote a really, really long novel with 240,000 words.
That
And
is a
then
long one, yes.
the book is about 3 generations of Chinese women, their life journeys. But I couldn't find a publisher. And I didn't know why until later a mentor of mine told me, this is too long for literary fiction. You have to divide it. So I divided into 3 books. That's how the 3 books were finished at the same times. Same
Okay.
time. Yeah, but now I've just phantom each one.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So each of your books is about someone else.
Yeah, correct. Each book has a different protagonist. So it
So
can be
the
read
first one is based loosely based on your grandmother.
closely with
The second one based on your parents,
my mother, Malay, yeah,
and the third one is based on who?
myself.
Yourself.
Yeah,
Yes, the natural progression. So that makes sense.
yeah, that's right.
Interesting. Well, you did mention that at the beginning when we first started talking. That's right.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So yes, we're gonna have to keep in touch. You can let me know when these books are finished
I will.
because I want to read them. You've got me hooked already. You've got me hooked
Thank you.
already.
Yeah.
So what was that little nudge that you're like, you know what? I want to get these stories out. I want to get these, I'm going to fictionalize them, but I want to start writing.
Um, the nudge. I don't need a nudge. I just read every day.
Now, were you always a writer? Did you like writing since you were a young girl, or is this something that happened after college that you wanted to begin writing?
Okay. I wanted to be a writer when I was in junior high.
Okay.
Far back it went, but when I was choosing university, like choosing a major for my university, my parents strongly objected that I study Chinese literature or journalism because it could be dangerous. Like there's so many Chinese writers and journalists, they were locked up, they were put in jail because of something they wrote.
Oh,
Um, like in the history of China, especially after 1949, the writers and they died because of what they wrote. So in the 80s, Chinese parents generally objected their children to study, to become a writer. So instead I studied banking and finance. So my degree has nothing to do with writing. Then after I graduate, I worked in China for 3 years. Then I came to Canada, but because I need a scholarship, I cannot choose to study, English or creative writing because there's no scholarship there. So I studied agriculture economics, which has nothing to do with creative writing. It sounds
but you
boring.
learned a lot.
So then in 2004, I always want to write my family story, but I did not know the angle or like how do I start, which angle I'm going to take. And then in 2004, one day I was in my garden doing gardening. All of a sudden, the inspiration came, and I decided to write a series of letters to write the family story. Like one sister in Canada writes letters to the other sister in China. But I first started in Chinese because my English was not good enough to write a fiction in, it's my second language. But after about 17 letters, I had to stop for two reasons. One was like I suffered repetitive string injuries. So typing was too hard for me, too painful. Another reason I realized that if I write in Chinese, I couldn't get any help. I couldn't get a critique group, a beta reader,
Oh, hmm.
freelance editor, eventually publisher. How am I going to do that? So then I start to, in 2006, I start to take creative writing courses, and I joined a critique group and start to write in English, learning to write in English. At the beginning, my English was like so many grammatic mistakes. My critique group of members, they also doing copy editing for me. So I thought, oh, this is too much for them. I was so embarrassed. So I decided to hire a freelance copy editor on an installment basis. So every two chapters I finished, I would send to her. She would edit it, send it back to me. Then I would present it to the group.
Oh, well, that's smart.
Yeah, but you pay more because after
Yeah.
all the feedback came in, you change, then eventually you have to hire the editor again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's really a long
What a,
process.
yeah, what a process. What a process. But
Yeah,
you're fortunate that you have that. You have the critique group and you've got people around you that can help you, that helped you on that way. So you're fortunate in that way.
well, one have to have the financial resource to do that.
Well, you would, yes,
Yeah,
yes. And you will probably agree with me because I'm an author myself.
yeah,
I also know that those expenses can add up very quickly.
really quickly. Yeah,
And it's thinking, even if I sell so many books, am I even will I, as just me, I'm not a famous author, will I ever even make back the money I had to pay out?
exactly.
And
I'm
most
in
authors
red.
don't.
I'm in red. You know, this trilogy cost me like took 20 years. Imagine the money I spent over the last
Oh,
20.
no, yes, I understand
Yeah,
it. And
yeah,
yeah, I think a lot of folks don't realize it's not just writing the book and the research, the time, the effort. Also, it takes an emotional toll
yeah,
on you. Um, it's writing a book. There's so much involved in it, especially if you're writing fiction. I can appreciate the time and the effort, and especially since it was so close to you
yeah,
about yourself and your family members, just what an emotional ride that must have been for you writing that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's next?
What's next? um, right now, I'm translating the first book into Chinese.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, but it's slow, and because at the same time, I'm rewriting my second book, the opening chapters of my second book, and I'm also working on a collection of my diary and the letters, the correspondence into a nonfiction. So, and I work full time. I also have a day job.
No, do you?
I do have a day job.
Most authors do.
Yeah, just my hours is flexible, so you and me can talk now
Yeah.
because I
Oh,
don't have a
yeah.
9 to 5 job, so which is good.
So, and I find it interesting because I always ask my guests prior to recording, what some of their interests are. And some of your interests are live theater
Yeah,
and traveling, exercising, and ballroom dancing.
yeah.
How awesome. So, how did you get into ballroom dancing?
I wanted to be a dancer first before I wanted to be a writer. I
Oh,
wanted to be a
okay.
dancer when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, but that never worked out. So now I'm a writer. But
Yeah.
in the 90s, when I moved to Calgary, I was going to just learn ballroom dancing, just enjoy myself because I would never become a professional dancer, but I just for the fun of it. So I started took ballroom dancing lessons and entered the competitions as an amateur. And I did that for, I don't, maybe 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. Then I got into English writing. And
Okay.
yeah, so I let the ballroom dancing go and start to jump horses. And then that also, I did that for 5 years.
You're still in Canada.
Yeah,
You never moved back to China to live there. How is it that, after you were a student, how
yeah.
is it that you were able to stay?
I came to Canada in September of 1988. In June of 1989, the Tiananmen massacre happened. And because of that, Canadian government allowed us to stay, just as US government, they allowed the Chinese students to stay.
Oh, so did you have to change your visa or anything like that?
We had to apply for immigrant status, and at the time we were told that by the immigration officer that we were special case, we're not limited by the quota, like the immigration quota of the year,
Hmm.
and we will be all landed within a year. So a year later, in every city in Canada, all the Chinese students, they were landed. Every single one chose to stay. Not even one said, "Oh, I'm going to go back." Everyone chose to stay.
Wow, life is such a journey, isn't it?
Yeah,
Goodness, all the twists and turns. We all have them.
we all have them. Yeah,
Every one of us has a book in us. That's why I tell everybody, every one of us is a history book,
yeah, exactly.
and it all comes from our perspective. Like, so, I've got several siblings. If we were all to write books, they would all be completely different.
Yeah,
So, do you
yeah,
have siblings you mentioned?
yeah. I have one sister.
One sister. Okay. And she's still in China or she's in Canada, you said?
She's in China, but she's much older than me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're opposite to each other. We're so totally different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a fascinating conversation. And I've learned, literally, I have learned so much today. I love meeting new folks and folks such as yourself, where you're open to sharing, your experiences. So I want to thank you actually
Wow.
twice. Once for being on my show, and second for being so open and sharing your personal experience and your personal journey. Because, I hope that those folks, all of you out there listening, that you're catching on to a lot of what she was sharing and how fortunate and we need to feel,
Yeah.
because the different cultures and different countries, you don't know how fortunate you are. Like I said earlier, as an American, I take a lot for granted, and I
Yeah.
freely admit that. I know I do. We're spoiled, kind of,
Yeah. In
you
a way.
know. So, and the
It's also
folks
blessing.
like you, folks like
Yeah.
you, you're so strong.
Oh, you have to. Either
You
you
have to be
believe
right.
or
You have to be. And you never know. This is something that this is like my little nugget of hope I toss out all the time. You never know how strong you are until like hindsight, and you look back and you're like, how did I get through that?
yeah,
And you're
that's
like, well, by golly, it's because I'm strong. You got that little whatever it is in your soul, wherever it's at, wherever it is in your body, or how you look at it, or what your belief is, whatever. We all have that in us, and it's those trials and struggles that help. Someone said to me the other day, they said every diamond, no diamond was ever created without being, unless it was under tremendous pressure.
yeah,
And that was such a good visual to me.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
we're all diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, exactly. And also pearl, right? Pearl is like it
You're,
can flash away to make that pearl. So
yes,
yeah,
another good analogy.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
But both of them, diamonds and pearls,
yeah,
just look how beautiful they end up.
exactly. Yeah. So sometimes I would say like the suffering is a gift in disguise. Even though I don't like suffering, nobody likes it, nobody wants it.
Right.
But without the suffering of the three generations, I don't have these three books to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's is that your nugget of hope? Because that's a good one.
Okay.
I
Oh,
didn't I hadn't gotten to that question yet, but I was writing it down as you were talking. let's let everybody know where they can find you. If you've got a website or social media, whatever, let folks know all that good stuff.
I have a website. It's tong-ge.com. So tong-ge.com. And I'm not very good at social medium. So yeah, social media. So I have Twitter, X, and Facebook, but I don't post often enough. Half of the time I don't know how to post. I couldn't make it work.
So your website is the best place for people to go then?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so it's Tong-Ge, which is GE, you said.
Yeah.
.com. Okay,
Yeah.
super easy. That'll be
Yeah.
in the show notes in the description as well, folks, depending upon where you're listening or watching this. And I always ask as we round out and get ready to close out the show, Tong, I ask all of my guests to toss out a nugget of hope. So a message of inspiration or motivation. What would you like to share with the listeners today?
I don't want to use cliche because I could, but it's like yeah, right. So I want to say something different. Life is like a book. So you need to read until the end, which means don't give up.
Right. No,
Make,
I love that. Oh, I love that. You need to read to the end.
yeah, that's right.
I'm writing that down.
Thank you.
I love that. Well, and as another author, and I'm an avid reader, so I'm constantly reading. That is perfect. I love that. Wow. Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Tong, for being my guest today. This has just been a fascinating conversation. I've truly enjoyed it.
Me too. I really appreciate
And
it.
everybody out there listening, thank you so much for tuning in and listening into this episode. Tune in each week, folks, because new episodes are uploaded each week on YouTube and all of your favorite listening platforms. My name is Kim Langling. I am your host of Let Fear Bounce. And thank you once again for stopping by and hanging out with myself and my guest, Tong Ge, today. Everybody be well, stay well, and above all, be blessed.
Kindness. It's simple, powerful, and free. Yet, it holds the extraordinary ability to change someone's day or even their life. Start tossing your own nuggets of hope into the world. It's easier than you think to make a difference. You grab your copy of Nuggets of Hope today and discover how you can transform your world with kindness. Let's make the world a little brighter together. Order your copy of Nuggets of Hope, Cultivate Kindness on Amazon.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Let Fear Bounce. Your time is precious, and I am so grateful that you chose to spend just a small part of it with myself and my guest today. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our weekly nuggets of hope and inspiration. And remember, folks, let fear bounce because you've got this. So until next time, folks, keep your light shining bright.